What are we doing here today? We've got clam hunting in Clintonville.
We're relocating mussels from the State Highway 22 bridge.
What does that entail?
It entails you go down to the bottom and you look for them and you physically actually grub for the mussels and then bag them up and then bring them up to a place where they can be out of harm's way.
Is this something you guys do a lot? I mean, you probably have to do this every time a bridge goes over a river.
We do when the bridge is going to be replaced or if there's going to be instant impacts from that project.
What have you learned about what's in there? Have there been some studies and some discovery that there are clams down there that you guys are concerned about? Tell me about that.
Yeah, we've done past surveys here just to see what's here, especially when the bridge project is coming up, to see what species might be here, whether it's worth relocating. Because not every bridge crossing has mussels, but the vast majority of streams do have mussels.
What did you find here?
I can't remember what all was here. We had pigtoes, we had pocketbooks, we had fat buckets, we had spikes, we had what else was here? Pinklebacks, all those kinds of species. Interesting names because they were named back in the 1800s by the commercial clammers.
Are they on an endangered, threatened, or concerned list? I mean, tell me about their status.
Right. We had no threatened or endangered species that were found here at the time that the last survey was done. There were special concern species. The brown pigtail was one, but but we're going to move them out of harm's way just because the mussels act as a really important filter to the water systems, and so we want to try and preserve them as much as possible and get them out of harm's way because they are significant resources.
How do they interact with other things? I heard they clean or can clear or filter how much water per day. I mean, they're pretty good.
Oh yeah, they'll filter anywhere up to a gallon of water per hour. So they're really good cleaning. They're your filter mechanism for the river. They're also really important food for other items. All of the fur bearers, the raccoons, otters, mink, those guys, muskrats eat them. Fish eat them, birds eat them, but also they're the habitat at the bottom of the river for other bugs that live on them. Things lay eggs on them. There's just a lot of shelter under them, so they're a really important contribution to the system, be they dead or alive, because the shell material also contributes.
Now I'm told normally you go upstream, but because of the dam, you want to maybe go safely downstream. Talk about that.
Well, usually we try to move the mussels upstream because if something happens in the dam during construction, we know the impacts are going to be downstream from that. So we try to move things upstream. Usually we don't have a dam immediately upstream. So in this case, we'll likely move them downstream to an area far enough downstream that if something does happen at the dam, they would be impacted by that. Or not at the dam, but at the bridge.
How big are these mussels?
The mussels can vary. We've got little tiny guys called lilliputians that are only maybe an inch big, but they can be 20 and 30 years. Some of the bigger guys, the black sand shells, can get up to 5, 6, 7 inches. Things like the peel splitters, that was another one that was found here as a white bill splitter. They can get the size of small, dinner plates. Pocket lips are substantial as well. They can get the size of, say, a good softball size. And they're very long-lived. That's what's important.
Were these mussels that were used commercially?
Yeah, they were used. There was. Well, I don't know of any button factories on the river here. However, they were on the Wisconsin, they were on the Manitowoc, they were on the Milwaukee, they were on the Sugar. So there were button factories that sprung up all over Wisconsin during the pearl button era, which was the late 1800s. There was also in the early 1800s something called a pearl rush, where people were just going out and looking for pearls, and they'd rip open the clams and see if they get them. Every once in a while you'll find an old newspaper article from the turn of the century, in the mid-1800s, where it's reported that this family went out and packed them a picnic lunch and went out, took their buggy to the stream side, sent the kids in, they gathered clams, they ripped them open, and they found a pearl.
But is it common to find a pearl?
No, it wasn't, and fortunately it didn't catch on here, so that which was a good thing because it just kills them. It just wastes the mussels. In Europe, it was really common because royalty wanted to wear pearls not just for jewelry but as on their clothing and such. And as a result, many rivers there were completely decimated. Their mussels were complete because the poor people could go out wading stream and look for pearls and get a lot of money when you got one. but they're really rare. So, but the pearl button industry was huge, and there were people collecting shells all over the place, all over the state. In fact, I still run into guys that were farm boys that said, you know, on Sunday after they got done with the morning chores, they didn't have other chores because it was Sunday, and they could actually do what they wanted, and they'd take a gunny sack and go down the stream and gather mussels and take it to the button factory. And they said things like, they could give you $2 for that, which was a lot of money in the day when farm boys got paid enough. So.
I heard a story about huge piles of
Huge.
clam shells and they get put out.
30, 40, 50 feet high. When they took out the North Avenue Bridge, or not Bridge Dam in Milwaukee, I got a call and they said, there's mussels everywhere. And I said, what? And they said, they've got holes in them. And I went, oh. And it turns out there had been a button factory right there because there were small falls right there. That's why they built the dam there. And so they could come up as far as there, and then they would dump off their shells. And then they just used it for fill material.
When you say they filter water, what are they filtering out of it?
Pretty much they take everything that can fit inside their siphons, which is little small tubes, which are pretty big. Actually, they can be a half an inch across. So they're sucking everything in, but they're only interested in eating the green algae and the diatoms. So they take all that stuff in, and then they get rid of everything else that they don't selectively eat. And that stuff is called pseudofeces. I don't know why it's not called feces, because it really is feces, but they call it pseudofeces. And that it's a gooey mass, and then that drops to the bottom, and all the bugs and crayfish and the things that live on the bottom start eating that. And so it makes things that are available in the water column available to stuff that lives on the bottom of the river.
And do they work this year round?
Oh yeah. Well, no. In the winter they go down in the substrate. They get cold. They kind of the equivalent of hibernate.
Okay.
So they'll go down anywhere up to 2 feet down into the substrate, and they quit growing. They just sit there for the winter, and then they come up.
Yeah, how do they actually move?
They have a foot, just like a snail has a foot, and so they, that's how they crawl around, and that's how they dig themselves into the substrate.
Okay,
This is a good time of year to do that too, is that right?
To move the mussels, yes, because they're still active.
So are
It
you
won't be
guys
till the end of October when it starts cooling down that they'll start hunkering down.
And is the water clearer generally now, or is
It usually is. We just had a rain event, so
Right.
unfortunately it's going to be a little more muddy than usual.
all right.
But usually it's really low water and good water clarity.
Now, is there any food quality within these mussels that the native eat?
Yeah, exactly.